Welcome to the Rock Ag Podcast. This is your host, Garrard Coffey, Ag and Natural Resource Agent for the University of Kentucky in Rockcastle County. Today, we will be joined by Kevin Laurent, Extension Specialist in the Animal Science Department for the University of Kentucky. We'll be talking about ways to add some profit to your cow herd by marketing calves through special sales or even retained ownership to feedlots. Thanks for joining us today, Kevin. I was thinking as the fall kind of progresses here and we're kind of getting towards Christmas that, we got some calves or spring calves or we're having to do something with them at this point. And, some of them have already been sold. Some of them are still at home. And the thing that I always try to do is that I always try to think of ways to make more money with what I've got and what I've been doing. And so with our calves that we're selling that are coming off our cows, these spring cows, where is some money that we can make, on this set of calves? And I hear a lot of talk about program cattle, special sales, we can background at home and that kind of thing. So let's first talk about program cattle, I think is a term that I've heard quite a bit. And so what does that mean exactly? What are we doing with our program cattle?
Well, I mean, that's kind of a general term. It can be specific depending on who's talking about it, I guess, which program they're talking about. But these are cattle that are managed for a particular program or management, protocol that's going to sell either in some kind of an alliance or some kind of, in most of our case here in Kentucky with small producers, would be tapping into one of our preconditioned sales, whether it be CPH or any of the sales that some of our yards have now. There's a lot of the stockyards are going beyond CPH or having their own preconditioned sales, which is fine. And so they may have different stipulations for theirs, but it's basically cattle that are managed a certain way for that.
So
is generally in the case.
One question that I have about that, and it's something that I've been hearing some chatter about in places, is that I think marketing strategies in my area of the state and our area is whenever we decide that it's a good day to sell, I think we go out and we herd up some green calves and put them in a trailer and take them to the stockyards, and we sell them, and that's kind of our marketing strategy. But I feel like that as we progress into the future, that's kind of going to be, we're going to get bad discounted for that, I think. And if we don't have some kind of we've done something with them to make them a little more value, you see value added on our market reports. So when do you think that these program cattle are going to be the benchmark and we're going to be taking bad deductions for these green cattle that are going to the yards?
Well, I think it's starting to happen already. I mean, yeah, we're probably still a few years off from exactly what you just described, but I mean, there's still a premium, if you will, for cattle that are handled a certain way. Now, all that said, it is going to be discount driven. I mean, you can only give so much for a calf the next person can down the production chain and come out on it. They can't just give anything, any old price. I mean,
Right.
there's going to be a limit to premium. But how that's going to be dealt in the future as more and more cattle are handled correctly is the ones that aren't handled correctly are going to be discounted. And I guess, I jot down a few little bullet points to talk about today. And anytime I talk about marketing, I start with discounts. That's what I start because, program cattle, that term might sound might put some folks off. That just have 15, 20 cows and not quite as intensively managed. But there's some things those folks can do to avoid discounts, like just castrate your bull calves.
Right.
There's a lot of bull calves still go to town as intact males and go to backgrounders and that are willing to take that calf and as long as they can get it at a discount, they'll take that calf and castrate it. Here's the thing about, and I'm going to get on my soapbox a little bit about bulls. Somebody's got to cut that calf.
Right.
Why not you as the cow-calf producers cut that calf, get it done while it's early, while it's young, less than 3 months of age, be less stress on the calf. You got the calf cleaned up already. If you're worried about growth, put an implant. One implant, when you castrate, that calf that'll replace the natural hormones, and that calf will wean the same as if he was intact at weaning. But that's the best time, the most humane way to get that done. Get it done early. And every time I talk about this, invariably I'll have someone come up to me and say, well, those 3 and 4 weight calves sell the same. Bulls and the steers sell the same. I don't see no reason to cut them. And in a lot of cases, they're right. But when you get to the 5 and 6 weight calves, there's a consistent discount. And I mean, Kenny Burdine has been tracking that for years.
Yeah.
That discount on 5 weight bull calves versus steers has averaged $11 per hundredweight over the last, it's going on 15 years now. And here's the thing. So I don't think we can stay in the cattle business selling 3 and 4 weight calves. So
Absolutely not.
We probably ought to be reaching for that 5 weight calf, if our program ends pretty much at weaning. If we can sell that calf at 500 pounds, but sell him as a steer ready to go to the next person and make some money for the next person, I think that's the beginning goal right there.
So that kind of leads me into where I've got on my next bullet point here that where I'm talking is just backgrounding our own calves. The first place to start is if whether I've got 5 or I've got 500, the place to start to add a little value would be to background my own calves, cut the bulls, give them 2 rounds of shots. Let me back up and let's do 2 rounds of shots on that. Let's get those grouped together. Let's wean them. Let's feed them. Let's do a little backgrounding on our calves. I mean, I feel like that's the first place to make a few extra bucks.
It is, and that's been a consistent returner over the years. I've been tracking CPH returns. I do a net added returns that I've tracked since the early 90s. And I'm looking at data right here just from 2005, just in the Guthrie sale in Western Kentucky. Since 2005, I don't know how many sales we've had here, 3 per year since 2005. That thing is average returns per head, net returns per head, $75. The last few years, we've been over $100 a time or two. So there's money to be made in doing that, taking that next step. I think folks should try to tap into a sale or a program, if you will. Whether I know Bluegrass has a new program. I'm not sure. I'm trying to think of sales in y'all's area. I guess y'all would sell at Somerset or Richmond or maybe London. So, I mean, those are the ones nearby to you all. I don't think help me with my geography. I don't know if y'all go Mount Sterling. Of course, Lexington's there down the road too. But those are all of those sales, pretty much all the ones I mentioned, have some kind of special precondition sale, whether it's CPH or their own, or sometimes, some of them have both, 2 different kinds of sales. And I don't know, going through the country, whether it's far to go to Stanford. Stanford just had a Hereford sale, which was basically a CPH sale for Hereford sired cattle. Yeah. So there's different sales out there I think folks can tap into depending on what you want to do and what kind of cattle you have. And I think you'll be rewarded for it, for a little bit of effort there.
Yeah, that's what I had down is that, once you start backgrounding, well, if I'm going to background my cattle, then let's move them on up to the next step and let's put them in a CPH sale.
Yes.
Let's do that program. Let's put them in. And I know you mentioned Bluegrass and they've got a program now. I can't remember. They've got them rated like gold, silver, bronze, or something.
Yeah,
like
there's
that.
different levels, and I'm not super familiar with it, but they're also offering CPH.
Right.
This week Richmond's going to have a CPH, Lexington's going to have a CPH. Plus, they've got some breeder program cattle. I think On Gate Angus is having a special sale using their genetics. Is going to be going through one of those yards. I think Tim White and them might have some type of sale using their Angus genetics. So there's some of the breeders are stepping up and coming up with some different programs to tap into also.
Yeah. I mean, I see it and I feel like that, that's a good way to try to push a little bit, like you said, take that next step and try to get a few extra bucks out of your cattle. I mean, I know you mentioned there are 2 or 3 times there was some profits, I mean, whenever you start talking $75 or $100 a head, I mean, let's be honest, in today's market, that could be our profit per head.
That it is. And what some people have to balance is, if you've got 20 calves, well, I mean, that's that's Christmas at my house.
That's right.
You know, that would have
Absolutely.
paid for Christmas for my brood back when they were all at home and we gave them all presents, you know.
Yes, sir. I
Uh,
mean, that's it.
you know, I mean, it depends on how you value the dollar, your time and your effort to do that. It's going to take a little effort to do it. And I think that's probably more of the commitment that we try to get people to sell on, more so than the actual extra dollars you're going to spend. Is that commitment of time to try to do the right thing.
Yeah.
I think I wrote an article a while back, something about, I called it the last best thing we can do for the calf. You know,
Yeah.
just the pride in in that calf and getting him ready to get on that truck and go a long distance before, you know, whether he's stopping right there somewhere in Kentucky in the background of the lot, or whether he's going all the way to the feedlot. If we can wean that calf and get him straightened up and get him ready for the next person, the next person has to make money just like you do.
Right.
We have to make money at the cow-calf level, and then everybody down the line. When everybody's making money, we're, you know, the industry's healthy, you know. Right. So often in ag, some segment makes money at the expense of another segment, and
right.
Can't always, that's not real sustainable, not to use a buzzword, but that only lasts for a little while, and then things have to adjust. The market will adjust it. But, you know, if you're a consistent, if you've got several numbers of cows, if you can be a consistent supplier of good reputation calves, you know, they know when, you know, Daniel Coffey's bringing his 20 calves to whatever sale barn on a certain day, people, you know, if the sale barn knows you're coming and you've got those kind of reputation cattle, you're probably going to get that extra bid or two, you know.
That's right.
And I think that helps, you know.
I think I've heard you say before, and one thing I think about it a lot is that I think it may have been in reference to our BQA program, but you were talking about, you know, having that pride and doing that, and it's just the right thing to do. The right thing to do is have these cattle ready, you know, send them down the line. And like you said, when that guy gets those cattle, he goes, hey, those are great cattle. I want to get his cattle again. And so you've done the right thing by sending good cattle on down the line.
Right. Here's something else that it's a little different in Western Kentucky, because we've got several yards that are weigh-in sales where the cattle on a weekly basis, the cattle are weighed on arrival and they're commingled and graded, okay? Which is kind of neat, because those are, you know, if I've got 5 6-weight black calves and you've got 4 6-weight black calves, comparable quality, they're going to get put together and marketed together. Now in Central Kentucky, most of you all's stockyards are weigh out sales. Okay. Yep. So the reason that makes a difference, and I'm not even going to get into shrink. There's differences in shrink, you know, on the pay weight and all that, but those buyers know the difference. I mean, it's funny. They weigh cattle with their eyes all day long, every day of the week. They're going to adjust their price. That's not what I'm after. What I'm trying to get folks to understand is, if you're going to a weigh out sale, which most of your sales in Central Kentucky are weigh out sales, they cannot commingle your calves. Okay. Right. Your calves have to sell as a group. So if you bring 15 calves and let's split them male and female. So now we've cut them in half, and then we cut the differences in sizes. Now we might have 4 or 5 different little groups. Yeah. And if you look at research Kenny Burdine has done, lot size, if you can get to 8 or 10 head in a lot, that's where your biggest bang for a buck. If 8 or 10 head can go in that ring together, you've just hit a huge home run on premium.
Yeah.
You know, of like cattle, like quality, like color, like weight, same sex. You've got a marketing group. Okay. Now, one way to attack that, and so much in agriculture, so interrelated, you know, is having a calving season.
Yeah.
Having that calving season, having good genetics on the bull side, having a calving season, you put those two together at the very beginning, and then you manage that calf correctly when he's born and then under your care. Now you might have a better chance of, when you bring those 15 calves, they may only go into 3 cuts or 2 cuts, or, you know, depending on the case may be.
Yeah.
And so that's something to think about. Tightening that calving season where you've got a critical mass, a group, a lot size that's attractive to a buyer.
We, as working as an ag agent, I've been in for almost 8 years now. And one thing that I see is that a lot of times I want to make extra money on my calves, but I don't want to back up 2 or 3 steps and manage that bull, that calving season. I just
Right.
want to in the end. So really I'm treating the symptom and not the problem
Right.
by doing
Right.
that. So we want to get to the root of the problem, and we want to treat it all the way across the board. And I feel like a lot of times that is the case, that we try to do that. But at least I guess if we're trying to treat a symptom, at least we're trying something. But if we go all the way across and back up 2 or 3 steps and start from the beginning and get these cattle, and then we start doing stuff like the CPH sales and that kind of thing, then we're really getting a lot of bang for our buck by doing that kind of thing.
Yep. Yep. I agree.
One last thing that I would like to touch on before we go is talk about retained ownership to feedlots just a little bit for us, and kind of explain that program a little bit and tell us how that works out.
Well, I'll tell you, I'll just take this opportunity to talk about what we call the PVAT program, which is our post-weaning value-added program. And it's got 2 options. It's got a precondition option to get people who have never weaned and preconditioned calves before, to try to help them along the way through that process. It's associated with an incentive payment. If they wean and we need to get a weight at weaning. There's some requirements there. We have to get a weight at weaning. They have to try to feed these calves like we recommend, all right, for some period of time, at least 45 days, okay, a minimum of 45 days. And they have to sell in some kind of a preconditioned sale, all right? So if they meet all that criteria, what we do is once they do all that, we'll get the proceeds, or I shouldn't say the proceeds, but the copy of their check stub to see how those cattle sold. And we'll run a little closeout on that. How much did you spend on feed, vaccination, and whatnot? How much were those cattle worth at the beginning versus how much are they worth going through whatever preconditioned sale you choose to go through? Doesn't have to be CPH. And I'll run them closeout on that. And so if they do all that and we get to the closeout stage of this thing and get a closeout, they will be eligible for, actually in 2021, we just got approval for $50 per head incentive payment, up to $1,000. This past year it was $30 a head. So any of them that we start or sell in 2021, we can actually give them a $50 a head incentive payment. So that's PVAT precondition. The second option is PVAT feedlot. What we're looking for there is same concept in terms of trying to identify folks who have never retained ownership through the feedlot, give them a chance to get a taste of that. And what we do on that one is we're looking at folks who have been preconditioning already. So we want the people who have maybe been up the next level of management already, have been working on genetics, working on weaning and preconditioning, as a rule. And then those cattle they'll wean, precondition them here on the farm. And then those cattle will be shipped to feedlot in Iowa. And the incentive payment for 2021 is going to be $50 per head, up to $500 on that one. This past year it was $75 a head. That will allow those cattle will be shipped with other folks' cattle. We'll get a semi-load together, go to Tri-County feeders in Iowa, and they'll get carcass data, feed gain data, and that kind of thing. You'll get a world of data on those cattle, and it's a way to get a taste of retained ownership, see how their cattle actually feed and grade in the feedlot, and kind of see, give you a thumb sketch of how your genetics and how good your cattle are in that phase of the game. Of the two, well, I tell people all the time, of the two, the preconditioning is the most consistent 85% of the time. And you can look at 30 years data, I guess it's going on now, that I've got 85% of the time it's going to pay you dividends, significant net dollars to precondition and wean that calf and sell in some kind of preconditioned sale. Feedlot, however, is a little dicey. It's probably going to be more in that 50-50 range, whether you're actually going to make money going to the feedlot. The feedlot thing is, you really need to have the right genetics. And what this PVAT feedlot program I think is kind of neat is you can get a taste of that and see, where am I? What do I need to improve upon? Because Hardin County Extension has been running, Doug Shepard and them been running a feedlot with Tri-County feedlot program prior to the PVAP thing. They've been doing it for, I think, going on 13 years. They're producers who started out early and have stuck with it and have improved their genetics over time. They improve their odds. They're not, they might be more like 60-40 or 70-30 chance of making money as opposed to someone who, just starting for the first time. So they've had a chance to see how their cattle are doing, change their genetics, get cattle that'll gain and grade better and that kind of thing. So the feedlot deal, I would approach it with caution if you're not willing to risk losing a little money. Yeah. But it's a valuable way to find out, okay, just how good my cattle are and what do I need to do to improve, especially if I'm going to go in a big way trying to market in that fashion.
That was something, as you were talking about that, I was kind of thinking, me personally, I was like, man, that would really, really give you a good idea of actually what kind of cattle you have. I see my cattle until they're, depending on the year and how we decide to market them, I'm getting them into that 600 to 800 pound range. But to be able to see them go on and, am I finishing out, are my cattle finishing like they should, or are they little light, are they getting finished too quick, or, and really that gives me a baseline of, okay, here's where I need to go. This is what I need to be trying to get into my cattle to make them do better down the line.
Yep. That's right. That's right.
Very good. Kevin, if there's anything else that you'd like to shoot out at us before we wrap up, I'd be glad to hear it. Anything else, words of wisdom for us today?
Well, yeah, I don't know how wise. One thing, it's kind of a favorite subject of mine, and it may not, it's something that not everybody can do. But if anyone out there listening to this is thinking of adding a herd or starting a cow herd from scratch or whatever the case may be, I would just encourage people to look at fall calving.
Yeah.
If you look at the historical trends on the market, if you just look at the data, the USDA data tells us that almost 70% of the nation's cow herd calves in the spring, calves between January 1 and July 1, and only 25 to 30% calve in the remainder of the year. So the critical mass, there's a lot of numbers of cattle coming to market based on that. So you'll see your historical trends. Your light calves are going to be cheapest in the fall. Your light calves are going to be highest in the spring when there's less fall-born calves on the market. Plus, grass is greening up and people are looking for calves to put on grass. Your yearling market tends to be highest in August because those calves that were born last fall are now ready to go to a feedlot as yearlings. They've just been cheapened on grass all summer long. And now the corn harvest, and generally corn prices tend to trend down in the fall. So that calf is attractive to that market. There's less of them. That calf can be put in the feedlot, and they can actually, a lot of times that fat cattle, if you look at the fat cattle prices, from December to April is your high spot in fat cattle prices. And why is that? It's usually just a simple fact that there's just not that many cattle.
It's a supply and demand.
Our spring, it takes a heck of a spring-born calf to come out of that feedlot in April finished. Yeah. You think about that. If you got this calf born in March and you're going to try to get him finished by that next April, it's nearly impossible. So I mean, I would just it's hard to just take, if you got a good spring calving herd, I'm not advocating pulling the bull out and and not letting them back up 6 months or put them off 6 months. But some people have done that. But if you've got a chance to start a new herd, I would strongly encourage folks to look at fall calving. You need a pretty good forage program. You need to realize you're going to have to feed a little. Feeding's going to be a little more of a challenge, but the calving weather is going to be better. Yeah. Your marketing conditions are going to be better. Even the cull cow. So when you sell that cull cow, that's fall calving. You're going to sell her in hamburger season, right? Between Easter and July 4th is when cull cow prices are the highest. not only are you going to sell her sometime in that period after you've weaned her calf and dried her up, she's probably going to be 100, 150 pounds heavier than that same cull cow in November, when we probably let her get pulled down a little too much. Grass is starting to run out, and then we send her to town when all the other cull cows are going to town. So it's something that's just something I would encourage folks to look at. Is look at fall calving. I think it's definitely has some merits, worth considering.
I think from our discussion today, probably the most important thing that I can take out of this, all of it, is that let's look at our marketing strategies. And there's a lot of places we could probably hit a few extra dollars, and not just with, special sales or the way we take care of our calves, but as, let's sit down and, if you've got questions, then, hey, call myself or Kevin or whoever, and let's work out a marketing strategy for you, whether that means, backing up even a couple of months to miss that window on your calves, or backing, however you want to do it. But let's look at that, and let's try to figure out a way to market these cattle in, with supply and demand and in thought. And, let's produce some better calves to send down the road. It's a holistic approach for sure.
Yeah, it's like anything in agriculture. Everything seems to interrelate.
Yeah.
So
no doubt.
That's the challenge. That's what makes it so fun, I guess.
Yes, sir. That's absolutely right. Trying to win the game always.
Fun and frustrating at times.
That's right. That's right. Well, we really appreciate you joining us today, and I think we've got some good discussion points for people, and we will be glad to answer any questions that relate to marketing or special sales or anything like that. If you would like to be, included in one of these programs that Kevin mentioned, that, contact us, let us know. We'll get you in touch with him. And any of these special sales, your extension office or their websites are out there for those, and we can get you lined up with one of these sales for sure.
Yep, sounds good.
All right, man, we appreciate you joining us today.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for listening to the Rock Ag Podcast. If you would like any information on special sales or how to get involved with programs offered through the University of Kentucky for selling calves at retained ownership or backgrounding, please contact Garrard Coffey at the Rockcastle County Extension office. Thanks for listening. Make sure and like, subscribe, and share our podcast.